Well, first off, if you see this video went on a long time, what I'm going to actually tell you in the beginning of this video that's related to the title is not going to be that long. I'm actually going to go on to a little bit about my lineage after this, which somehow I think it gives me a little more insight than the average person for some reason. Not that I'm saying I'm something special. I've actually got on this YouTube more to help people than to make money. Unfortunately, I'd really like to make money too, but I really got on it more to help people. If I want to be making money, I'll go work for the rich bastards and screw people. So I'm going to tell you some stuff on here. This is not a video to make doom and gloom drama. It's pure common sense. It's straight 101 common sense. Now, I'm showing an oil rig here, right? I'm going to tell you right now, the title on this video is going to be World War III is damn close. Real close. And the reason I'm saying this is not that I'm being negative, but I got a damn hunch on this stuff. First off, I know there's several reasons why the price of oil went down. Yeah, partly it was due to, and I mentioned this in another video I did on silver, but it's more than I think World War III is damn close. Oil primarily went down is to break Russia because Russia was expanding militarily, and it's the same game that went on back in the 80s. That's what made Russia fall apart. Was they couldn't keep up the U.S. NATO militarily, actually the USA and NATO militarily, and when they just imploded. Russia right now is near the end. I know the United States is near the end too with all the freaking debt. I know this. I'm not gonna, I might say some unflattering things about Putin, but I'm being honest, and I'm not gonna freaking say all these nice things about a lot of our leaders in our government either. I'm not blatantly one way or the other. I realize both governments are corrupt, but what I'm getting down to is they're pushing Putin too far with this oil stuff. They're trying to make it to get Russia get into such a crisis that he's going to have such domestic problems that he's going to have to do a diversion to get the people on his side. This is typically what happens with anybody. Even when Clinton was around and Whitewater scandal was going on, he decided to bomb Bosnia or some crap, making a joke about it, but they all do it, okay? But in the case of Putin, it's going to be like, he's getting surrounded by NATO, and I'm not a fan of Putin, but I can see his side. His country's got NATO right up on its borders, right? They're bringing the price of oil down almost exclusively. I know it's partly Saudi's got an interest in breaking the U.S. shale oil industry, but that's not really the main reason why. It has to do with it's cutting back on the military expenditures of Russia and the amount of money that's available to Russia because they get most of their money from oil exports. And when oil's down, it makes all the commodities down, and the other commodities that they export are down too. Now, that's a big thing. Remember, I think it was last year when Putin disappeared for about, I don't know, a couple weeks. I made some jokes about it. I says, I bet you the oligarchs were getting after him saying, "Oh, man, what are you doing, man? You're freaking screwing it up. We're all losing money. What are you doing?" They're probably I was just kidding, but, don't get pissed off at me. But, I'm making light of this situation. But it's like he's actually got his back to the wall, and Western policy is putting his back to the wall. And if there's one country you don't want to put their back to the wall, like really, like where they're, like it's like countries like this and animals like this. I mean, you could do this with a possum. A possum is a critter that doesn't fight back and play. You heard the expression "play possum." They'll play dead before they'll fight back. But if you corner them, they'll fight. Now, I mean, that's not a good example for Russia, but I'm saying is, If you do this with any animal, you do this with any country, you do this with any person, you corner them, they're going to fight. And, I don't think Russia's going to back away from a fight when they're cornered, right? Now, the other thing they're doing is, and I don't want to be too critical of the West here at the same time, too, but it's like I'm just making a prediction here. We're heading to World War III really soon, probably. And I don't even know if it's, well, I don't want to put a date on it. I don't know exactly when, but I don't think it's going to be 5 years from now. How's that? Okay. I don't want to put a date on it. But the other thing is, how they did the Star Wars Strategic Defense Initiative? They're employing all these missile defense systems around Europe, supposedly because of, Iran having nuclear weapons, which is kind of crazy too, because, Obama made a deal with Iran about having nuclear weapons, right? So, why are we deploying these weapons for the reason that Iran might have nuclear weapons and missiles, right? That's another thing. But, the real reason they're doing it wasn't Iran. It's because of Russia. They're trying to, corner Russia into, box them in. And box them in not only militarily by putting, the Strategic Initiative, Defense Initiative, Star Wars, around in Europe, near Russia, to intercept any missiles that can come from Russia. But also, there's a lot of military hardware from NATO going near Russia's borders. Now, like I said, I'm not being critical of the West or Russia here. I'm just telling you what the situation is. And you see, Putin's been in power a long time, since 2000. He's been a president, then he's been a prime minister, and he's been a president again, right? He's not going to give up, man. He's not going to give up that power. He's got nowhere to step. He's got no way to step down. The other thing, he's nationalistic. And the other thing, he's got balls. He's got military experience, and he's hardcore. It's like you can have a leader that is a leader, like, say, our nation, like Obama right now or whatever. It depends on, no matter who it is. We see Putin is actually KGB military background. A lot of his experiences in judo and being outside and, doing things, hunting and fishing and jumping out of planes. I think it gives him more the psyche to make draconian, wild decisions. Like, he won't be afraid to freaking go balls to the wall. And these people in the West, they're thinking they can just corner him and and Russia's going to fall apart. And, that's a CIA prediction. Russia's going to fall apart. The U.S. military is going to go into Russia and secure their nuclear stockpiles and everything after Russia falls apart. I'm going to tell you one thing. That may happen if they don't fight back. But Putin is going to fight back before Russia falls apart. So the big question is, I keep reading, just you're getting worse and worse and worse. The situation's getting worse and worse and worse. Putin is a tough mofo. I know he is, okay? I mean, I gave him a lot of shit on my channel. I know I did. But he's a tough mofo. He is not going to play games. I don't like people that worship this guy. I get aggravated at this crap. I'm not coming from that angle. I'm just telling you the reality of the situation. Before Russia, I already know. I'm using plain, simple logic here. I'm not trying to scare people. I'm telling you the real situation. They brought down the price of oil to break Russia. They're absolutely telling you this in the major media, that Russia's going to fall apart. And that the U.S. military is going to have to come in and secure their nuclear stockpiles. They want to do this. That's what they want to do. They want to break this guy. Now, Putin is not against the New World Order per se. I know that's another freaking myth. He's for himself. He's for, Russian strength. He's a nationalistic guy. I'd probably like him a lot better if he was a U.S. president and he was born in the USA and he was a USA officer and he was, rooted in this area. I could see how the Russians kind of like this guy. Some of them do. I don't think the Russians really like him as much as, the Kremlin states they like him. But, I mean, be that he's on the other side of the world, he's not for me. I know that, okay? But I'm just telling you the situation that this guy's a tough mofo. When they really back him into the corner, and he's getting really backed into the corner, He's going to fight back. Now you think, well, if he fights back, we'll just kick his ass. That's maybe what some people are thinking. I don't think so, because you know what? The one thing I understand about Russians is, you see, every country's got this little thing. Like in the United States, it's like the big thing is money. I'm the richest guy around. Like Trump, he's all money, 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 money. And in Italy, everybody who's got the big thing over there, believe it or not, is professor. I'm a professore. I'm a professore, man. I don't know, maybe France it's more like an artist or something. I don't know. But every country's kind of got their thing. In Russia, the big thing that a lot of people say they are, even though they aren't. But it's something like a buzzword in Russia. They're an engineer. And I could tell you, even when the Russians military fell apart in the late 80s and 90s, the one thing they were pouring money into, even though the conventional forces didn't have any money left, the lights went off in the naval facilities and all this other garbage. They had to stop, rolling the tanks due to lack of gas or whatever they had. They had problems like that. They were still putting money into high-tech stuff. Now, I do know that Nikola Tesla released at least as much information to Russia as he did to the United States. I don't know what the hell Russia's got. They probably got some really high-tech shit that we have no hint what they got. Also, you remember the stuff with the Nazi scientists and stuff? A lot of their technology was captured by the Russians. I don't think they let their cards known. Like we don't let our cards known with everything that we're doing and what we might have. That like we didn't know about the the stealth bomber until Desert Storm. Nobody knew it existed, right? Till it was until I used it then. Well, we've seen recently in Syria, even some of the cruise missiles that the Russians have, they're far more advanced than they expected. They got a better range. They can fly lower. They're faster. They didn't, and all their military attack helicopters are a lot better. Their tanks are better than they expected, and they made a very good show against ISIS, right, or ISIS, or ISIL, whatever the hell you call them. YouTube don't like me talking anything bad about ISIS. Freaking good guys. I know, God. But anyway, I think Russia's got a lot of tech weapons that we have absolutely no idea what they got, and they're waiting for the right time to use it. I think it's sort of like we don't need to use it, we don't want to use it because it'll destroy us. But if our backs are to the wall, we're going to use it. Now I know Zhirinovsky bragged that when they had the Japanese tsunami, it was a guy Zhirinovsky in Russia. He's like kind of like a fringe political leader, and I don't know if I should say this because I say something politically too far. YouTube don't like it, But Zhirinovsky bragged that it's like I like to tell the whole truth on here, but I realize I can't. But Zhirinovsky bragged that Russian technology caused the Japanese tsunami and earthquake. I personally think the U.S. did it for other reasons because of what the hell was it? The Japanese were coming out with the hydrogen-powered car, which was hydrogen coming from water. I actually saw the major media article that just put Nissan, Mitsubishi, and all that were supposed to adapt the technology from Genepacks. And if that happened, they were going to have it in luxury cars, not just Genepacks technology. If that would have happened, that would have destroyed the demand for oil, and that would have destroyed the petrodollar. So, that was the end of that shit. I'm pretty damn sure of it. Now, after this, I'm going to tell you a little bit about some of my lineage, and I think I have insight into this crap pretty good because I don't know. I've seen some wild shit, man. I got to tell you that right now. But what I think the Russians are going to do is the simplest thing is EMP. I laugh, but an EMP would knock out all the major freaking communications, YouTube, the whole 9 yards. I don't know when they're going to do this. I hope they don't do it. But I just think their backs are being pushed to the wall by the oil prices, which is deliberate. Deliberate. They want to break Russia so that they could break it up into like different satellite nations and put them in a new world order. And Putin ain't gonna freaking go along with it. He knows what the hell they're doing. He's not doing anything yet, but when he gets desperate, forget it. EMP is the way to do it. And an EMP would cause so many massive riots, food shortages, transportation, communications, and you look at all these specials on TV with all these fat SOBs all over the place with all their high technology that they sit in a computer controlled electric crane and do everything, or they hardly have to do any manual labor today because everything's computer controlled. Um, you know, Machinery doing everything for them, and they're sitting in an air conditioned space, whether they're operating a bulldozer or driving a truck or whatever the hell it is, and they got all the best shit in the world, right? Well, if you got to do it old school, everybody's going to have to be in really good shape and know what they're doing and use old tech. And nobody's ready for that shit. So there'll be a massive breakdown in the United States. I think that's what they'll do. EMP. But I think they got Tesla technology that makes the standard EMP with the high altitude nuclear burst. Um, that is the standard method you would think they would use. I think they got other stuff that could really knock out the grid in the United States. And our grid is very, very vulnerable. There's no doubt about it. So, the only way that you're going to survive is if you're really simple, like the Amish. You live in a log cabin, you're by a stream, you can hunt out the window, whatever the hell it is. It's really your only option. And I think this is coming up real soon. I don't even know. I mean, it could come up in a year or two. That's what I'm thinking. It could come up next month. I don't know. I hope not. That would suck. But I don't want to, I think this is true. I'm using pure common sense logic. They're breaking Russia deliberately with the oil. That oil thing didn't go down because of demand. The demand was down years before the oil went down. It was when Russia started playing the games with, the Ukraine thing, and I know it's like we were doing it, George Soros was doing it, but I mean when Russia started buzzing planes in the UK, Sweden, and Alaska, and I'm talking about they're going to expand bases in the Arctic, and they reinvaded Crimea. Not saying that they shouldn't have, okay? I mean, there's an issue there where, in some ways they shouldn't, some ways they should. But it's almost like I don't know. I mean, Ukraine is not part of Russia, but then again, it's not part of NATO either, right? Or should it be? It ought to just be part independent. But it looks like we're obviously pushing Russia's back to the wall. And then they're playing games. They're pushing back. They're pushing back. We're doing stuff to try to overthrow Syria. And then they're doing other stuff to not overthrow Syria. We're pretty much in the beginning sections of World War III. But when the real clincher, the obvious clincher is, and this is where you got to not look at too many details. You got to really keep it simple, because they obviously state our side, the major media that runs, the major media, or the people behind the scenes that tell the major media what to say. They're stating that Russia is going to fall apart, and that the USA is going to have to come in with their military and secure all the weapons and all this, and then Russia will be split into sections and whatever, be part of the New World Order. Putin is not going to freaking go for that shit. Putin is way smarter, way more hard ass. He's not against the New World Order per se, but he's against anybody fucking with his Russia. Okay? I mean, that's basically the way the hell it is. He's not like the hero against New World Order. He's basically he's a guy for Russia, but he's also a guy that's got so much power. He's been in so long. I mean, he's not no saint, man. He's a dictator, But I mean, I can't say one thing too much one way or the other way about the guy. He's a dictator, okay? I'm not saying our side's good, but you know what I mean. He's a dictator. He's not going to go down and, like, he just can't retire. He just can't say, hey, I'm stepping down. I'm going to go live in a mansion. Let the next guy take over. Because the next guy that takes over, you see, there's a lot of shit going on financially behind the scenes with Putin. He's got his oil trading company in Switzerland, and it's registered in Cyprus for tax purposes, tax evasion purposes. You know, that's what I knew about Cyprus. I know the oligarchs all do that shit. So anyway, actually, I ran into a lot of stuff even with these oligarchs in some years ago. Man, they got so much freaking money. It's like the Forbes list of the billionaires in the world, the top 400 billionaires. They don't even mention none of these oligarchs in Russia, man. They mention a couple of them. There's a whole bunch of them out there you never heard of. I ran into some of that stuff some years ago. Now, I want to talk a little bit about. I say World War III is coming. I hate to say it, man, because I really don't want to. I really don't want to believe this shit, but I'm pretty damn sure it is. You know, it's almost like when I said the housing market was going to crash. I didn't want to believe it, but it did. you know, yeah, shit. I don't know. There's a lot of shit I don't want to believe, and then it happened. Well, anyway, I'm going to talk about. I got lineage on my father's side back to the American Confederacy and the Sons of the American Revolution. That is proven, right? I got three in the Confederacy, or at least my name, and I got three in the American Revolution. Direct lineage, father to father to father, and all that kind of shit. Not even going through different last names, except two of them are my last name. One of them is not my last name because at the very end it was a mother's, the wife's, whatever, father, but he was a pretty high officer too. Anyway, my mother's side, my great grandfather, I'll just call him X, he was the illegitimate son of Duke Albert Edward, who was later became Edward VII. Now, at first I didn't believe this, and my mom tells me, don't ever tell people this shit because you'll think you're nuts. You know what? I didn't believe the story about this Duke deal, and I didn't know what a Duke was because I'm an American and I don't know anything about English peerage, right? But I didn't realize, yeah, it was a Duke. It was a Duke. My uncle got information from his uncle, who was the son of the illegitimate son of the Duke, and when he had to do a paper for high school. And he said, he showed that his grandfather was, his great grandfather was the illegitimate son of the Duke of England, and they called him the Duke in high school. They called that for that reason. They gave him the nickname the Duke. But considering that the information also was documented at that time, I don't have that document, and that the son of the illegitimate Duke was a high-end CPA in New York, a stickler for accuracy. You wouldn't just be making up some bullshit like you're saying some stuff in a bar. Because sometimes I don't trust people that tell me stuff, whether they're family or not. But considering he was a high-end CPA in New York, I figured that's legit. But where I started dotting the I's and crossing the T's better was I realized the illegitimate son of the Duke, I'll just call him X, he went to London to get married with his Italian wife. None of them spoke English. He decides to go to London from Italy, and he gets married. I'm thinking, well, that's curious. Why the hell are you going to London to get married? Then he has his firstborn child born in London. Why are you staying there? Do you have a business opportunity? No, he was an iceman apprentice when he got there. He was poor. He was looking to establish he had some kind of London attachment. And that's really what he was doing. Then he goes back to Italy. Then he goes back to London again. And then has another child, born on 911, interestingly. I don't even want to say his name because you wouldn't believe the first name. It sounds like you wouldn't, God, I don't even want to say the guys because it's getting too, I don't want to reveal who it is. And then he goes back to Italy. And then when Queen Victoria dies, I see him on the English census. He's living there in London, And I always got the story he was trying to go for get get a position as being a duke from his father when he became, at one point in time. And being that he was illegitimate, I don't think was the big problem. I think the big problem was even beyond even not speaking English, because I found out in the 1920 census, the the illegitimate son of the Duke, he didn't even speak English in 1920, 20 years after he was in freaking England, um, for the last time, right? And so he's in there in 1901, and I think the big reason he didn't get a damn thing out of anything was because he was Roman Catholic. And back then, Roman Catholic was like the biggest enemy in the world of the Church of England, man. No way in hell would you be like, you know what I mean? I mean, I don't give a shit if you're offspring or whatnot. But the other thing that actually piqued my interest was they used to call him X, the son of the illegitimate son of the Duke, Big Grandpa, because he was much taller than the other Italians. So here he was raised in Italy, northern Italy, by the way, and he was much taller than the other Italians and he looked English. He looked like the spitting English image of an Englishman, which tells me he's, got English blood, and everybody else looked Italian and was shorter. And the other thing is, his last name, which I will not say, I'll just call him X, started with him. The whole story was that his last name was given to him because he was the illegitimate son of the Duke. Now, those are some things that really confirm this story, even though it's a word of mouth story. But when I started looking at some of the dates, and also the fact that Albert Edward, was known as, I don't want to say nothing, but here he is right here, later in life, but he was a young man back when he got, the courtesan from, she was born in Italy, but she was working in France, in Paris, when she got pregnant. And Albert Edward at the time, Duke Albert Edward at the time, was noted as being the horniest guy ever that was royal blood. He was supposed to be the horniest one going. They had Edward the Confessor, the religious guy, way before him, and then Edward, I don't know, what would you call him? The caresser. The caresser. That's what they called him. So he was a horny guy. And that's another thing that kind of confirms it. Now, the other thing that comes up from that, though, is later on in 2010, 2011, and I actually have a picture of Duke, excuse me, not Duke, he was King Edward VII in 1909, a color picture. This is a painting now. A color picture with him in his Scottish kilt and his cottage uniform, taken by Nathan Lionel Rothschild. Nathan Lionel Rothschild was supposed to be the actual father of Edward, the real father, not Prince Albert. It was Nathan Lionel Rothschild. That came out from Lord Greg Hallett later on from documents in 2010 and 2012, and also that picture that surfaced of the color picture of the Duke that surfaced later on was in 2009. It was taken 100 years earlier in 1909, the only color picture of the Duke, which was taken by Nathan Lionel Rothschild. Which that means is that Nathan Lionel Rothschild is my three greats grandfather. Now, the reason I'm mentioning that is not that it's something special, but I always noted when I always clicked with, and I always seemed to work best with, very aggressive Jewish businessmen that were tops in their field, very good at making money, very well connected with stuff you would not believe, and I always seem to be like their main accountant. And a lot of people didn't like these guys, but I always liked them. I liked them. And somehow I click with them. But I get suspicious about believing this Nathan Lionel Rothschild deal because I don't really think nothing bad about the Rothschilds. I mean, I know there's some stuff that's bad about them, but I know it's a big conspiracy. I actually got a video out on them about the Rothschild banks and taking over the world and all this kind of shit. I know they're kind of doing that, but I don't really think nothing bad of them, and makes me wonder. I might be part Rothschild. I think I am. And my mom told said never to say that shit because people think you're fucking nuts. But when I went through this stuff, I didn't believe his story about the Duke. Even though I heard this from way back for the last umpteen decades. And I decided when I had the time to really investigate in it, really deep. And when I'm looking at, where these people were and, all the circumstances of everything, it's freaking true. Now, the only other link that I'm not sure about, but it rests upon Lord Greg Hallett. But you know what? It may be true because the only the only monarchy in the world that is ultra wealthy and actually increased in wealth over the last 100 years has been the British royal family. All the other monarchies in Europe have been greatly diminished, whereas the British royal family has increased greatly in wealth. If they were all related to the Rothschild, Nathan Lionel Rothschild, that would make sense. So I think that way too. So that's another thing that makes that connection more plausible. But I noticed that many times when I work for a lot of these very aggressive Jewish business people, they listen to me because my thought processes were good as far as looking out for things that could be possibly coming up and to warn them about situations. And, actually, even though I was not an attorney, I fought like an attorney for them many times, even though I was their accountant. Because I know how to speak. I know how to speak on my toes, and I'm not afraid to speak in front of people, and I have no fear in front of somebody that has credentials a mile long. I have no fear about that. I'll fight for them all the way. That's why I think I'm one of them in some ways. But I don't really think of Jews as bad. I know most of the internet does. But I don't think of Jews as bad people, including the ultra wealthy. Now, Bloomberg, I get pissed off at. Soros, I get pissed off at. But you know what? If I was in their company, I'd probably meld right in. But there's another side of me that does not fit in with them, and I use that side of me to steer them straight. And I've done that before. So, I don't necessarily get corrupted by them. I more or less straighten them out. And, I will do that. But I don't think no ill of Jews. I work with them, and, if I see something wrong, I try to steer them in the right direction. So that's my take on that. But when I'm telling you this thing about World War III, I'm telling you from what I think my insight on this is extremely accurate. And just getting right down to the basics again. The oil has been brought down. I know there's a lot of reasons you could say why the oil was brought down. The global demand in the world is so low. The oil is so low. But you know what? OPEC's not supposed to do that. OPEC is supposed to make sure the price stays high. That's why OPEC was formed. In other words, when the demand for oil is really low, you're supposed to cut production. You're not supposed to raise production. You say, well, maybe they did that just to break the shale oil industry. Well, they seem to not want to do that in the beginning when they could have broke them. No, they waited. They waited till they got established. Why? No, it had to do with Putin. Because the games that were going on between NATO and Russia were getting more and more acute. In the Ukraine, Crimea, Syria, different things with the, jets flying over here and there and all that kind of crap. And then, the USA putting the Strategic Defense Initiative in Europe. Well, and it's blatantly obvious that the major media is even telling us that they expect Russia to fall apart and that the U.S. military is going to come take over. Putin is not going to allow that to happen. So sometime between now and the time they fall apart, which is not going to happen, Putin is going to hit us. And the smart way to do it would be EMP. He ain't stupid, man. This guy is not stupid. I know I gave him a lot of shit on some of my videos. He is not stupid. I'd be better off dealing with this guy than our leaders. I would. I personally would be better dealing with him as a representative of the United States than our leaders. Our leaders are lame. I think Trump would deal with him pretty good. But I don't know if who the hell knows what's going to happen? Because, like, I mean, Trump might get in office and all this crap's going to happen right away. Because, you know, when Trump gets in office, I think the guys that the elite in this country that are corrupt as all hell, they fear for their rackets so much that they'll allow this to happen even just to, you know, create such a turmoil so that, you know, they got a way to escape from, you know, the wrath of the people, basically being, you know, because Trump's not gonna side with our elite that are screwing over this country. Trump's a nationalist, so they might even do it before Trump gets in office. Who knows? I think Trump's definitely on the way in. No doubt about it. So I'm just telling you that, you know, a lot of people listen to me about some things that, and sometimes I would discuss with these people for very long periods of time, and they would talk to me because, you know, they knew I was intelligent and I had a lot of common sense. They also knew I was on their side, and I'm pretty damn sure about this. So, and I damn sure hope I am wrong, but I don't think so. But that's also the reason I know that silver is going to go astronomically high. But then again, when silver goes astronomically high, the world is going to be a mess. So I'd rather have silver not go too high and the world not be so screwed up. But I don't know if it's going to work out that way. You know? I mean, all these people pushing all these crazy prices on commodities, yeah, they probably will go that high because the dollar is going to be destroyed and everything's going to be expensive as shit. Which is not going to be nice. I'm not like jumping for joy over that kind of thought, but I think I'm right about this, and you know, somehow I think I even have it in my DNA that I got the element of some of their, you know, the thinking, the shrewdness, that I could see this. Because I swear to God, before I even knew this stuff about, you know, I knew about the Duke, but I didn't know the Duke was the father was Rothschild. But before I even knew that, I always knew I got along with these Jewish guys that a lot of people didn't like. I mean, they kissed their ass, but I liked them. I used to work my ass for these guys. I worked my ass off for these guys. I liked them. I do extra, everything, weekends, Sundays, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning. Work through lunch every day, and I don't know. And you know, that kind of dedication is because somehow I click with these guys. You know, I don't know why that was, but now I'm beginning to wonder why. Maybe that was because maybe I am part Roth. I think I am because because of I think that research by Lord Greg Hallett is correct, and you know that would make sense. I got some of that blood, but that doesn't mean nothing. I'm not saying that makes me special. And, you know, I'm not trying to say I'm high and mighty for that. I'm trying to say is that gives me a little more of the shrewdness insight as to what I think is coming down. And I think I'm correct about this World War III scenario shit coming up. And it's not going to be like bombs going off right away. I think the EMP attack is first. And I have put that shit out in many videos before about the Carrington event. But I don't think it's going to be natural. I think it's going to be man-made, and I think it's because Russia is deliberately being contained, and the guy that's running Russia, he's no slouch, man. When it comes right down to like the wire, and they got it where Russia's going to start falling apart, he's going to go for it, man, because they're pushing him over the edge. As a matter of fact, you know what happened in World War II? Think the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor just because they decided to do it? They pushed them, they squeezed them with the oil, right? What do you think happened? You know, even the guy who's my supposed great great grandfather, freaking King Edward, he's supposedly the architect of World War One. So people hate him for that reason. I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying that, but you know what I mean, right? Right? Anyway, I'm just a regular person, though. I'm not trying to be highfalutin here, but I'm telling you, I think it gives me more insight on this shit. And I'm giving it to you real simple. This oil deal, where OPEC is doing the exact opposite what they were formed for, is being pushed by the USA. That's why, and then when the USA Congress says we can sue, the 911 victims can sue the Saudis, and the Saudis are getting hit left and right and going broke with this freaking crap because they're doing the exact opposite what OPEC was formed for. They're getting all kinds of bent out of shape too, and they're probably going to jump ship on this OPEC deal and go with China. And the hell with the petrodollar, which is another reason all hell's going to break loose for the USA. Am I wrong? I don't think so. Is this doom and gloom to scare you and get views? I don't think this video is going to get many views, okay? I don't think it's going to get many views. But, you know, I mean, what's it going to make me? You know, I could go work for the freaking big guys, you know, make, $50 an hour or more, right? Easy, right? Actually, my billing rate at the firm is 150. So, I mean, I could do that instead. So, like I said, I do a lot of this I want to help people. And that's the mark of a true Jew, believe it or not. If you don't believe it, even though I'm Roman Catholic, I kind of consider myself Jewish in heart. So, and I don't believe that Pope Francis, I think he's a New World Order operative to the max. He's a freaking talking about the Muslims hug him and shit. I was like, get out of here. Anyway, that's all I got to say. So, get yourself a log cabin, get a wood burning stove, get yourself a gun you can go hunt with, and a stream, whatever else, and an axe to chop the wood with, and all that. So you'll be fine. Okay? And just giving you a heads up because who the hell knows? When that happens, we're not going to have YouTube anymore, right? That'll suck. We'll have to figure a way around that. We'll do shortwave YouTube. How's that? Over and out.